State versus Alberto Farias. 656-813 State versus Ryan Vela. 640-848 State versus Linnea Olson. 644-784 State versus Diane Ruiz. Mr. Smith, I'm going to call you last because of the circumstances or the noise that you're in the middle of. Would the rest of you please raise your right hand? Do each of you solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Ms. Russell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Ventura?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Farias?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Vela?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Olson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes, sir.
My name is Isaac.
Now, I am informed and have seen that each of you, I'm sorry, put your hands down. I am informed and I have seen that each of you has made an agreement with the state to enter a plea on some charge. That agreement, as I will explain later, is not binding on me. I'll have to say yes or no on each agreement. Before I do that, I want to make sure each of you knows and understands that you have specific constitutional rights and protections that apply to each of you individually in your own case. I'm going to talk about 5 of them. First of all, you have the right to remain silent. Each of you does. You cannot be compelled or forced to make any kind of statement. You cannot be required to answer questions. You cannot be required or forced to submit written paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that may admit or confess to wrongdoing. Do each of you, all right. Secondly, each of you has the right to a jury trial. You individually and your attorney could participate with the state and select 6 citizens from a jury pool, disinterested citizens who would hear all of the evidence, the information, testimony, whatever's presented. Each of you would have the right to have those 6 people in your individual case decide whether you're not guilty or whether you have in fact been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. That's the right to a jury trial. Each of you has the right to confront witnesses. If either of you individually decided to go to trial, the state would have to try and prove you guilty, and they would do that by testimony from witnesses. Each of you individually, with the help of your attorney, could question, cross-examine, or challenge any witness who would testify. That's called the right of confrontation. Now, when the dust settles and the case is over, each of you would have what's called the right of appeal. You individually, or your attorney individually, or the 2 of you together could demand in a proper form and paperwork, you could demand that a higher court review the official record and all the proceedings and evidence in your individual case. You'd have to be careful. I would just warn you, because you have to follow the rules on the kind of paperwork and the information you would submit to try and get an appeal. And you'd have time limitations. You just can't do it 6 weeks, a year, or 6 months later. There is time limitations. That's called the right of appeal. And then each of you individually and the state in your individual case, respective case, have the right to demand that this proceeding be held in the open public courtroom. Because of the COVID pandemic, we're doing it as you see here on the internet. It's called a video conference. In order to do that, each of you had to review a document that identifies you by name, case number, and court number. And then it tells you, or rather it's titled Defendant's Consent to Video Conference. Since the state has that same right, they have to consent also and sign a video conference consent. So I'm going to ask you each, did you understand these rights that I have discussed with you verbally, or at least told you about them? Ms. Russell,
Yes, sir. I understand.
Mr. Ventura,
I understand.
Ms. Moody,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Farias,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Vela,
Understand, sir.
Ms. Olson,
Yes, Your Honor.
and Ms. Ruiz.
Yes, sir.
All right. In order to proceed with this hearing and the results of it, each of you had to review documents that are part of this case, this hearing, in your individual cases. Those documents you should have reviewed and had the guidance, the counsel of your individual attorney before you signed it. The documents in your case, did you in fact review them and understand them and have the help of your attorney? Ms. Ruiz,
Yes.
Ms. Olson,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Vela,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Farias,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Moody,
Yes, Your Honor.
sorry, Ms. Moody, I'm sorry.
That's
All
okay.
right, Mr. Ventura
Yes, sir.
and Ms. Russell.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, there's documents that I'll discuss with you. The first one and the very critical one, each of you in your name has, in your individual case, has a document titled Defendant Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. Now, that tells you that these rights that I talked to you about a while ago, verbally, and other rights, you are giving those rights up by participating in this voluntary plea agreement. So the document tells you this in writing. You have to, it asks you to acknowledge that you have seen and understood the different rights, particularly the right to remain silent, the right to a jury trial, among the others. All of these rights now are repeated in this document in writing. There's also a discussion in there, because there's 14 numbered sections or paragraphs that tell each of you individually in your own case that this matter, your case, is such a case that you are giving up your rights and you are participating in a agreement with the state. Among the things that I'll repeat for you is that the deal that each of you makes with the state, I don't have to accept it. I do tell you that I am required to say yes or no to the individual agreement. Is that understood? Does anybody have any question about that? All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Now, a second document includes, again, each one of you is identified, and the document is titled Trial Court Certification, a Defendant's Right of Appeal. A moment ago, I told you what a right of appeal basically is. Now I inform you that as part of the deal that you're making, if you want to make a deal, you have to give up your right to appeal. Is that clear, Mr. Vela,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Farias,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Pesina? Pardon me, she's not here. Ms. Moody,
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ventura,
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Ms. Russell,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Olson,
Yes, Your Honor.
and Ms. Ruiz.
Yes, sir.
Now, each of you, with one exception, and he's not in here right now, each of you is going to get some form of probation. Let me explain briefly what probation is. Probation is a written, legal, binding agreement between you and this court. The agreement varies, obviously, because of the case and because of the individual and what kind of deal you've worked out. But the essence of the agreement is that in exchange for your plea, any jail time, the basic probation says that any jail time will be suspended or probated for a given amount of time, so long as each of you individually lives up to 100% of the conditions of supervision. Now, quite a few of you are getting deferred adjudication probation. A deferred adjudication probation is a higher level of probation because what it does is the deal is that even though there's evidence and you will enter a plea that's basically a guilty plea in this court, I will not find you guilty. It'll be deferred, postponed. And if you live up to, again, 100% of the conditions of supervision, then the case, your charge winds up, the one you pled to, winds up getting dismissed. And under Texas law, you were not convicted of the charge. There's a downside to that. If you fail or refuse to live up to 100% of the conditions, then the state may ask me to give you official notice, bring you in for a hearing. And in that case, it may be that under the evidence, the law, I will find you guilty and enter a conviction that follows you the rest of your life. And you look at 100% of the punishment range for your individual case. Those ranges will be a little bit different for some of you. Be aware that the conditions of supervision that you're going to have to live up to will be read to you by the probation office. You will sign them and they'll put a copy in your hands. You won't be able to come back. Hopefully you don't, but if you're required to come back for a hearing, you're not going to be able to tell me, I didn't know that was a condition, because you'll have the conditions in your hands. Now, question for everybody. Are you a U.S. citizen? Ms. Booty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ventura?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Russell?
Yes, sir, I am.
Mr. Farias?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Vela?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Olson?
No, Your Honor.
You are not.
No. Permanent conditional resident.
All right.
Your Honor, Ms.
Yes.
Ms. Olson has conferred with her immigration attorney. She's been given the Padilla advice from her immigration attorney. She understands that and she desires to go forward.
Ms. Olson, tell me that what Mr. Roundtree has answered, and that's the reason why I asked. There is a Supreme Court of the United States case. It's called Padilla versus Kentucky. It requires that you be fully aware of whatever consequences could result to your immigration status or your deportability as a result of this charge. Are you fully informed about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who gave you that information?
My immigration lawyer, his name is Lance.
Say again, the last name? The name is what?
His name is Lance. Let me find his last name.
Lands?
Lance
Land?
is his first name. Yes, his last name is Courtwright, Lance Courtwright, Lance, and then his last name is Curtright.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I'll have to identify that in the file.
Thank you.
And Diana Ruiz, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you all. Now, I will be asking each of you that gets probation whether you have children you support or not, and how you make a living, what that income is. I can't help but notice some of you did not fill out all the information that you should have, but we'll deal with that later. Okay. At this point, does anyone have any questions about this proceeding or the documents that you have signed? Okay, then let's start with Mr. Vela. Mr. Vela, you were charged with DWI. State, what is the agreement that's been made with Mr. Vela? I understand that the state has a motion to amend his complainer information, and he is going to enter a no contest plea to obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway. Is that correct, state?
Pardon me, I can't hear you, Miss Ashley.
I'm sorry?
I can't hear Ashley.
Ashley Haas, we can't hear you. She seems to be frozen.
I can see her talking, but I can't hear her.
Well, hey-o.
She's saying to hold on, Judge.
Okay.
Still nothing.
How about now?
Yes.
I think we hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Haas. On Mr. Vela, the state has a motion to amend the complaint.
Yes, Your Honor. It is as you stated, we move to amend to add count 2 of obstruction and proceed solely on count 2.
All right.
Objection, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Vela, that means that you're no longer charged with DWI. You're now charged with obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And defense, you do not object, and you waive the 10 days notice of amendment?
We do, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. To that charge, Mr. Vela, how do you plead? No contest is my understanding.
Yes, sir. Correct.
You know that a no contest plea, and I say this to all of you, a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea in this court, and it's sufficient for me to find you guilty and convict you at this time. You understand that, Mr. Vela?
Yes, sir.
All right. The agreement, then, I find that you have I find there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but I do not. I will, in fact, instead accept the plea of no contest. And then it is my understanding that the following is the punishment. You will be granted 12 months deferred adjudication, a fine of $500 plus court costs. You will perform 48 hours of community service restitution. You'll complete the DWI education program, the victim impact panel, the TAP evaluation and recommendation subject to my approval. You will have no application for early termination. You will have 6 months ignition interlock continuously on your vehicle. You're not during those 6 months, you're not to drive any vehicle other than yours equipped with ignition interlock. Now, is this your agreement, Mr. Vela?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Roundtree?
It is, Your Honor.
How do you make a living, Mr. Vela?
I work full-time.
I'm sorry?
I work full-time.
I expect that you do. And where do you work and how much do you make?
I work for USAA and I make net pay is $3,200 a month.
What is your gross pay per month?
3840, 3,840.
3,840 a month.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have children you support?
No, sir.
Okay. The court approves your agreement. Your supervisory fee will be $34 a month. All of you will be required to come to the offices of County Court at Law Number 5 and have your thumbprint placed on the documents that are required by law. All of you will stick around and meet with Ms. Maricela Luna, who is what's called a court liaison officer. She's going to get you started on the probation. Any questions? All
Your
right.
Honor, on behalf of Mr. Vela, I believe he's done the classes already. I would ask that as long as he provides proof to probation, he would be given credit for that.
Which class is the DWI education and the VIP?
I believe that's correct. Is that correct, Ryan?
I have not completed them just yet.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll take that back, Judge. He hasn't done them.
Okay, so he doesn't get credit for anything right now. He's going to have to do it.
That's correct. But Judge, I would also,
I
I'm
don't know
sorry.
if I said it, but it's 48 hours of community service restitution just to make sure. All right, Tim, what are you saying?
I apologize for interrupting, Judge. I would ask that Mr. Vela be permitted to make a donation in lieu of some or all of the community service hours, and that you would let us know what that amount would be if you approve that.
All right, the community service hours, you're authorized to donate at the rate of $11 per hour. My personal preference is that you donate to the Gabriel Project. The probation officer can help you, but you have the option of donating to the San Antonio Food Bank, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Roundtree?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Olson,
Yes,
you
Your
have
Honor.
been charged, you two have been charged with DWI. And it is my understanding that the state will make a motion to amend the complaint. They will add count 2, which makes it available for you to plead to obstruction, and that's what it appears you're going to be doing. State, is that the motion?
Yes, Your Honor, that is state's motion.
Mr. Roundtree, do you have any objection, and do you waive the 10-day notice?
We have no objection, and we do waive the 10-day notice.
All right. So then the state will be waiving the DWI first, and there'll be a plea to obstruction. Ms. Olson, to the charge of obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway, how do you plead, ma'am?
Guilty.
All right. Mr. Roundtree, is that what you wanted her to plead?
Your Honor, we could plead no contest if that's acceptable to the court.
State, what is the agreement?
Your Honor, the plea paperwork reflects a guilty plea.
That's fine as well, Judge.
Reflects what?
A guilty plea?
A guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then I accept your plea of guilty, ma'am. I find that there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, including your own plea, but I do not. I will grant you 12 months deferred adjudication in accordance with the agreement. State, is in fact the agreement that she will not apply for early termination, that she will pay a $500 fine plus court costs, that she will perform the DWI education victim impact panel, submit to a TAP evaluation, and recommendations will be subject to my approval. 6 months ignition interlock. Is that the agreement state?
All of that in addition to 48 hours community service, Judge.
I failed to write that down. And 48 hours of community service restitution. Yes. All right. Is this the agreement, Mr. Roundtree?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Olson?
Yes.
And how do you have children you support, ma'am?
I do not.
And how do you make a living and how much is your income?
I work at a staffing agency. I'm a market manager there. And then I also am doing my master's full-time. My income varies a little bit because I'm partly commissioned, but I give or take about $9,000 a month.
Okay. All right. I will not accept a $500 fine with that type of income. Your income, in fact, your fine will be $900 and your supervisory fee will be $56 a month. Now, be aware that I have given you a sentence or a punishment that is greater than what you have agreed to. Under the law, you're allowed to start all over again should you choose to, or you can accept my increase, and that is strictly up to you under the law. You might consult with Mr. Roundtree, or you might want to have a decision right now, but that's up to you.
We discussed this in advance. I believe Ms. Olson's prepared to answer now.
Yes,
All right, ma'am.
I accept.
All right. Then with that income and with that fine, I changed that, and I appreciate that you're accepting that. Any questions, Ms. Olson?
Judge, I do, if you could let me real quick, Linnea, she has a couple of issues that I need to bring to your attention. First, nod your head if I'm correct, Linnea, but you did do the classes, correct?
That's correct. I did both of them.
So the DWI education and the victim impact panel, Your Honor.
The court will give you credit for those, certainly. It is documented, right, Mr. Roundtree?
Yes, Linnea, you have the certificates. She provided them to me and she will provide
Yes.
them to probation.
Very good.
Second, Judge, Ms. Olson would like the option to make a donation in lieu of some or all community service, if you would approve that.
All right. I will approve, as I did a moment ago. That'll be at $15 an hour. Again, my personal preference is that the donation be to Gabriel Project, but you can opt to donate to the San Antonio Food Bank at your choice.
Judge, a remaining issue is that Ms. Olson is a resident here in Texas. She's married. She and her husband live here. However, she's working on her master's and she is in school in California, and it's been remote, but they're going to require her to attend in person in California probably the next year. So we would ask for her permission to travel to California.
All right. I presume you're telling me that the travel would be during the next 12 months?
Yes. Is that correct,
Okay.
Linnea?
Yes,
right.
starting mid-January when the semester starts, and then I'll be going back to Texas about once a month for my job and my husband.
All right, then the court approves travel as needed for your education and your employment.
Your Honor, I have one other thing for Ms. Olson. She is from Sweden, and I think semi-regularly goes to visit her family. Will the court approve that as long as she's in compliance with all their conditions, or does she need to submit an individual request each time?
How frequently does that happen?
I try to go once or twice a year. I was hoping to go this upcoming summer.
I would prefer that you submit an individual request accordingly. I don't want to give a blanket okay.
Thank you, Judge.
I presume that she will do well, but you and I both know what assumptions and presumptions get us. So I'd rather that we see how she's doing. I expect and hope she does very well. And accordingly, I will grant that. All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. All right. Nikesha Russell,
Judge, what did you say her supervisory fee was?
$56 a month.
Thank you.
Nikesha Russell, you were charged with DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. That is commonly called extreme intoxication. It is my understanding that you've made an agreement with the state that you will plead no contest after the state. State, are you making a motion at all?
Yes,
Yes.
Your Honor, the
Yes.
state would move to add count 2 of obstruction and then proceed solely on count 2.
Very good. Mr. Roundtree, any objection?
No objection, and we waive any right for further time to prepare.
Very good. Then I grant that motion. And Ms. Russell, you're no longer charged with extreme intoxication. In fact, you're going two levels lower, going to obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway. Mr. Roundtree essentially has pulled a rabbit out of the hat for you. So,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying thank you.
All right, now I grant that motion, and it is you're no longer charged with any DWI. Instead, it's obstruction. To the charge of obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway, how do you plead, ma'am?
No contest.
A no contest plea is considered a guilty plea in this court. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you? Or
Yes,
promise
sir.
you? Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything other than the plea bargain in exchange for your plea of no contest?
No, sir.
All right. I accept your plea of no contest. I find there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but I do not. All right. State, recite for me the agreement on punishment, please. It's 14 months deferred, I know.
Yes, Your Honor, 14 months deferred, $500 fine plus court costs, 48 hours community service, restitution of $60 to DPS, Crime Stoppers fee of $50, DWI education, Victim Impact Panel Live, TAP evaluation and follow recommendations, and ignition interlocks for 7 months.
Mr. Roundtree, is that the agreement that you've entered in behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Russell, is this the actual agreement that you've accepted?
Yes, sir.
All right. I approve this agreement subject to finding out, do you have children you support?
Yes, sir.
How many do you have and what are the ages?
I have 5 kids. The oldest is 16. Then I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
All right. And do you make an income outside of your home? You probably have a very busy home as it is.
Yes. I make $2,200 a month is what I bring home.
Do you have anyone's help in your home as far as support?
No, sir.
Are you getting child support?
It's about to stop, but I get about $100 a week.
For 5 children?
Well, 3 of them are my wife's kids.
All right. I will not accept a $500 fine under your circumstances. I'm going to make it $250 instead, ma'am.
Thank you.
I approve. Otherwise, the agreement on punishment, your supervisory fee will be $25 a month. Now, Mr. Roundtree, as an officer of the court, would you at least inquire with your client whether the Attorney General's office is available to help her with child support issues?
Yes, Judge, I'll follow up with her on that.
Would you please? I think with 5 children, she ought to be getting some kind of help. All right. Any questions, Mr. Roundtree, in reference to Ms. Russell?
I don't know if you would like to do this, but if she would like to make any kind of a donation, would the court set a rate that she could do that?
In her case, the rate would be $9 an hour, should she choose to.
And that's all I have, Judge.
Okay, Ms. Russell, any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Joe Alex Ventura. You were
Yes.
charged with assault bodily injury, Class A misdemeanor. State what, if anything, is the agreement? I didn't get the details on this one.
Yes, Your Honor, the agreement is for 12 months deferred adjudication, $400 fine plus court costs, 48 hours of community service, and enroll in APSC, the anger management course.
AP like Paul.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and what else?
That is all, Judge.
All right. Mr. Ventura, to the charge of assault bodily injury, how do you plead, sir?
No contender.
You understand that that plea in this court is considered a guilty plea and is sufficient for me to convict you?
Yes, sir.
All right. I accept your plea. I find that there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but I do not find you guilty. Instead, I am deferring that finding for 12 months. During that time, you're to complete 48 hours community service restitution, pay a $400 fine and court costs. You will enroll in and in good faith complete the AP, like Paul, SE program. It's an anti-anger program. Do you understand these details?
Yes, sir, I do.
How do you make a living, sir?
I work at TC. I make about 1,700 a month.
How much?
1,700, 1,700.
Where do you work?
Fast food.
I didn't hear you.
Fast food.
Mr.
Okay.
Ventura, what's the name of the
Oh, I'm
restaurant?
sorry. Taco Cabana.
Taco Cabana.
You got 0 children?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your supervisory fee, I approve the details of the agreement. Your supervisory fee will be $27 a month. Any questions, Mr. Ventura?
No, sir, I don't.
Mr. Roundtree?
This one that's,
I'm sorry, Mr. Statson.
thank you, Judge. I would, just as Mr. Roundtree had asked, if Mr. Ventura could be permitted to buy some of the community service hours.
All right, that was a little bit muffled. I got somebody in the office making a little bit of noise.
I would
So-
ask if Mr. Ventura would be permitted to purchase some or all of the community service hours.
If he chooses to do so, he can donate again to Gabriel Project. In his case, it'll be $8 an hour. Or he can opt and pay or donate to the San Antonio Food Bank. All right, all of you, don't forget you have to wait for Ms. Luna. 649-004, State versus Alberto Farias. Mr. Farias, you two were charged with DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. That was called extreme intoxication. The state, you have a motion.
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me. The state moves to waive the extreme intoxication enhancement and proceed on a DWI first.
Mr. Gonzalez, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Since it's an amendment, do you waive the 10-day notice of amendment?
Yes, Your Honor, I do waive it.
Very good. Mr. Farias, you're no longer charged with extreme intoxication. You're now on what's called Class B DWI charge. To that charge, sir, how do you plead?
No contest, Your Honor.
Again, a no contest plea, I'm reminding you, is considered a guilty plea and is sufficient for me to convict you. Is that understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything other than the plea bargain in exchange for this plea?
No, Your Honor.
All right. It is my understanding that you have made an agreement for 14 months deferred adjudication. You will not apply for early termination. You will pay a $500 fine and court costs. You will perform 48 hours of community service restitution. You will complete a DWI education program, the Victim Impact Panel Live. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and the recommendations subject to my approval. You'll have ignition interlock installed in your vehicle for a continuous 6 months. During those 6 months, you're not to drive any vehicle other than your own with the ignition interlock installed. Is that understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the agreement that you have reached with the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Farias?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Gonzalez?
No, Your Honor.
And how do you make an income, Mr. Farias?
I work at a hospital, Your Honor.
And how do you earn?
Can you repeat that, sir?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat the question?
What do you make? What's your income?
$2,500 a month, Your Honor.
And do you have children you support?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Your supervisory fee, I will set at $29 a month. All right, let's see. We got 1, 2. Six 44784 Diane Ruiz. You too.
Yes, sir. I'm stepping out into the hallway so that I can have a little more privacy.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
1 second.
Tell me when you're ready.
She's right here. She's coming.
Are you ready, ma'am?
You want to take it in the
Yes,
room over there?
I need privacy. I need to just take this call really quick.
Our office is private. If
Okay.
you wanna, yeah, let's go this way.
Hi, hello.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Ruiz, you were charged with DWI with blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. Again, that's extreme intoxication. The state has a motion on that. State?
Yes, Your Honor. State moves to amend the information to add count 2 of obstruction and proceed solely on count 2.
No objections, Your Honor.
Mr. Ibarra, do you also waive the 10-day notice?
We do, Judge.
All right. Good news, Ms. Ruiz. That means that you're no longer charged with DWI at all. You're charged with obstruction of a passageway, highway, or water. That is very beneficial to you under the circumstances. Now, I approve the motion, and it is my understanding that you are going to, what is your plea, ma'am, at this point?
Guilty.
Guilty?
Yes.
All right. Based on your plea and the evidence, I find that there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but I do not. Instead, I accept your plea and grant you, according to my notes, 14 months deferred adjudication. You will not apply for early termination. You will pay a $600 fine plus court costs. You will do 60 hours of community service restitution. You'll pay a $50 Crime Stoppers fee. You'll complete the DWI education program, the victim impact panel, a TAP evaluation and the recommendation subject to my approval. You will do 7 months of ignition interlock continuously on your vehicle. During that time, you're not to drive any vehicle other than your own equipped with ignition interlock. Is that understood? Is this your agreement, Mr. Ibarra?
It is, Judge.
Ms. Ruiz, is this your agreement?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Do you have any children that you support?
I do not.
And what is your income and what source?
I'm currently unemployed. I'm getting out of a relationship, and I was a stay-at-home girlfriend, I guess.
Okay,
So my ex-boyfriend was taking care of me.
all right. Do you believe you're going to be employed soon, man?
Hopefully.
What do you think you'll be making?
I am not sure as of yet. The jobs that I've had previously were commission-based.
All right. All right, well, this is your agreement. Your supervisory fee will be $25 a month.
Your Honor, if I could, just briefly for Ms. Ruiz, she has completed both the DWI education course and the VIP course. We do have certificates for that. We ask the court give her credit for those courses that have been completed upon proof given to probation.
The court will approve that upon documentation.
Yes, sir. And we also ask that according to the court's preferences, if at all possible, that she be allowed to make a donation to the food bank or something of that nature to satisfy some aspect of their community service obligation.
I'll approve it at $10 an hour.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Again, my preference is the Gabriel project, but I will also allow the opting for pay donation to the Samsung Food Bank.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Patricia, I think that's all of them with the exception of Mr. Smith.
Your Honor, I have one more. I have Miss Brooklyn Moody.
I'm sorry, I had not done that one.
That's okay.
That's correct, Judge.
Ms. Moody, case number 644584, State versus Brooklyn Moody. Ms. Moody, you two were charged with DWI with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. State, you have a motion?
Yes, Your Honor, state moves to amend the information to add count 2 of obstruction and proceed solely on count 2.
Mr. Roundtree,
We have no objection and we waive any further time to prepare.
based on those responses, the court approves the motion. Ms. Moody, you have been beneficiary of some very good lawyering. You're no longer charged with DWI of any kind, much less extreme intoxication. Instead, you're charged with obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway. To that charge, ma'am, how do you plead?
No contest.
A no contest plea, as I have been saying this afternoon, is considered a guilty plea and is sufficient for me to convict you. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything other than the plea bargain in exchange for that plea?
No, sir.
All right, I accept your plea. I find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty, including your own plea, but I do not. Instead, I will hear the recommendations of the state, which I believe are 14 months deferred adjudication, a $500 fine, 48 hours community service restitution, DWI education program, the victim impact panel, the TAP evaluation and recommendations subject to my approval, 7 months ignition interlock, continuous ignition interlock, is this the agreement that you have made, Mr. Roundtree?
Yes, Your Honor.
That state, is that an accurate recitation?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
All right. And Ms. Moody, is this your understanding of the agreement and do you accept it?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Judge, you left off restitution, if any, to be determined.
I don't see that, but state, is that correct?
I don't
think
see
this
that
was an
noted
accident
on,
this one, Judge.
no.
It's on the plea agreement.
Okay, that's on Pecina.
No, it was on Moody.
Oh, is that on the agreement, Patty?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that the requirement, state restitution, if any?
No, Your Honor, not in this case.
Okay. All right. And ma'am, do you have children you support?
No, I don't.
And how do you make an income? Where and how much?
I'm a nurse at a children's hospital in San Diego, California, and I make about $4,800 a month after taxes.
All right. I find a $500 fine with your income unacceptable. Instead, I'm gonna make it $700, ma'am. And your supervisory fee will be $52 a month. I have given you a punishment that is greater than what you agreed to, that allows you to start all over again should you choose to. What is your choice on this, ma'am?
I do not want to start all over again. I'm fine with this.
All right. Then that'll be my agreement. Did you say that she's done any of the schooling?
She has, Judge. She has done, Ms. Moody has done the DWI education and the victim impact. I have the certificates and she will provide them
All
to
right, submit that.
probation.
Submit that to the probation office and she will be given credit for that. All right,
Judge, I have two other things for her, if I could.
I'm listening.
First, I'd like her to be, I would ask that you would permit her to make a donation for some or all of her community service.
All right, donation will be allowed at $12 an hour.
And second, Your Honor, I've discussed this with Ms. Luna. Ms. Moody lives in San Diego, California. We would ask that she be permitted to reside there, but to report by Zoom to Bexar County.
That would also be ordered by the court, certainly.
Thank you.
Now, just as a recitation on Ms. Moody, the donation, as you may choose, my preference is the Gabriel Project that can be raised through probation, or you can donate to the San Juan Food Bank. Anything else, Ms. Moody?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Roundtree?
Nothing else, Judge.
All right, I think that covers it except for Mr. Smith. All of you that are here at this moment, you have to meet with Ms. Luna. She's gonna go in and break out with you guys and get you started on the probation process. The probation officers will wind up reading to you your conditions. You will sign them. Each of you has to have your thumbprint placed on the documents. So, any questions from anybody?
Judge, there's a couple of people that left.
Patty, I already talked to them, Patty.
Oh,
was
okay.
chatting with them and I told them I can leave. They can leave.
Very good. All right.
And Your Honor, if I may, Your Honor, this is Robert Gonzalez, and I think I'm finished. Mr. Farias is still here. May I be allowed to leave at this point, Judge?
Yes, sir.